Okay, so this is my 1987 Pontiac Firebird. It's a base model. It had a 305 or 5-liter carbureted V8 with a 700 R4 transmission. I am the second owner. It's been a Michigan car its whole life. It's pretty sun faded with the paint on the top and the typical spots right up here. You can't really tell with the rain on it, but you can see the damage to the seats from the sun. But it's a very clean car, not a spot of rust on it. It was never driven in the salt or snow. It's got a couple little dings in it on the passenger side there. So yeah, when I bought it, I didn't really buy it. I traded for it. I traded my 2005 Pontiac Grand Prix GXP that had a LS4 aluminum 5.3 in it, but it was a front-wheel drive car, and I was really looking for something that I could mod more and would be more versatile in the end, so I chose to trade it for this. So I got it in like summer of 2019, and I drove it for a few months, and then I got a tank of bad gas, and it hydrolocked that little 305, and I ended up pulling all the spark plugs out of it and turning the motor over by the crank bolt on the front with a ratchet, and you could hear the water pouring out of the cylinders. And so I did new spark plugs, and I don't remember, did I do new spark plug wires at that point? I think I might have. It still wouldn't start, but it wasn't hydrolocking anymore. I had to drain all the gas, water gas, out of the tank and put new gas in. And I took the carburetor apart, and it was all sorts of gummed up inside. So I ended up buying a new carburetor, a new Rochester 4-barrel quadrajet carburetor. I think it flowed about 750 CFM, something like that. And I put that back on there. I don't remember if I did that fall or if it was spring of 2020. I think it was spring of 2020 I put that new Rochester on there. And then a MagnaFlow exhaust. And I drove it all 2020 like that. But yeah, it has some history with me. Not a whole lot, but we've been through a lot together with that particularly. And then we got these seats in 21, I believe. Fall of 21. They're Kobaru. I remember the model of these seats. They came off of hawksmotorsports.com. They had these seats and the brackets on there. I think they look really nice, and they're a huge upgrade from even the standard seat, but the seats in this thing were just awful. They were falling apart. We got a NRG steering hub and quick disconnect steering wheel, Sparco steering wheel. We got buttons on here. Only one of them is wired up with this wire right down here. That's my launch control. Horn button, original horn button still works. So gotta love that. Let's see what's up in here. We got our transmission temp gauge, air fuel ratio gauge. This is a boost gauge that just reads engine vacuum right now because I don't have a turbocharger on. That's plans for the future. But yeah, this is what she looks like in here with the lights off. Got our bourbon tree air freshener, phone mount on the window there. That's the interior. It's all original interior. It's got some rough spots that may eventually get replaced, but it's kind of more of a race car than it is a show car. And it's my daily, kind of. I daily that, but when I can, I drive this. So I'm not super worried about interior or exterior, especially because it's not terrible on the outside. I would maybe consider getting it painted someday, but I like it the way it is for right now. We got BF Goodrich tires on there, white letter out. That's how I got the car, was with those tires on there, white letters. I'm not usually a white letter guy, but I thought they looked pretty good on this thing. And then under the hood, this is a 355 small block Chevy. It came out of a 1986 truck of some kind. I bought it from my cousin for about $300, I think. And I put it right in 21, spring of 21, just as is. It was a 355 already, but nothing else done to it really. No special cam or heads. Actually, the heads that were on it then are these iron heads up here that I'm going to use on a different motor eventually. But I ran it all to 21 with the Rochester, and I had to put a different intake on it to fit the Rochester than what came on it. It's a waned intake. It's in that box, but it's not the Team G that this box is for. It's called the Street Warrior intake. Well, yeah, there we go. So it looks very similar to the factory intake, minus it doesn't have a spot for coolant crossover in the back, but it's got all the rest of the provisions except I think EGR as well. So we ran that with the Rochester on here all of 2021, just because I was happy to drive it with a little bit bigger motor, and happy to drive it especially after, in 2019 when I had the bad gas incident. And then 2022, I think that's correct. In the spring, we took the motor out and freshened it up. New gaskets, rings. I did new forged pistons, just Summit Racing forged pistons. Did comp cams, thumper cam, and all the valve train stuff for that, timing chain, push rods, all that. Ran that for a while, and then we put on these Brodix IK 200 aluminum cylinder heads, and we got just some Jegs roller tip rockers to go in there. You'll see those when I do the video on adjusting the valves. Then I put that brawler on there. Actually, this might have all been, I don't remember what year it was exactly. I think it was 22. Did all that. Didn't put this MSD stuff on there yet. It was still running the stock style distributor. And I ran that, and then I had some transmission problems. Rebuilt that transmission. Rebuilt that transmission, put it back in, and it ran fine the rest of 22. And then I was having some ignition problems at the end of 2022 when I put it away for the winter. So this spring, when I got it back out, I did the MSD ignition system. So we got the programmable 6AL2 box here, billet distributor, MSD blaster 3 coil, and MSD wires, and NGK racing series, the Dash 7 plugs. And it runs pretty good. We got a Carter, I believe it's a Carter racing fuel pump. It's like 120 gallons per hour mechanical fuel pump down in there. Summit Racing fuel filter, Holley fuel pressure regulator, just a Jegs fuel pressure gauge, Summit fuel log. It's mostly stock fuel lines all the way up to this point right here. These two connectors right there. From that point back, it's stock fuel lines. It's got headers. Those went on when I put the motor, the 350 in, before I did anything to it in 21. And it's got a Y pipe, same brand. I think it's Headman headers. I wrapped them with the heat wrap stuff, and it works really well to keep the temperatures down in the engine bay. Yeah, I think that's everything up here. Oh, I got an Optimo red top battery for it, and different mounting bracket for the alternator. I had a nice PowerMaster, nice shiny chrome high output alternator on here, but I ended up frying it drag racing. Even though this is not a fast car, I do enjoy it. It only runs about 14 2s to 14 0s is what I can run in it right now. The current transmission doesn't shift quite right. I'm sure it could be in the 1390s, 1380s, but the transmission just doesn't shift quite right, and there's a couple other things that need to be fixed with it. But anyway, I fried that alternator, so that's the original alternator back on it. And then let's go down here. It does have one replaced pop-up headlight motor in it. I've got a transmission cooler with a fan auxiliary right up in there. It's just zip tied in there because I couldn't figure out a better way to mount it as of right now. So that's what's going on there. We've got BMR suspension, front sway bar, and 1.5-inch lowering springs. We got QA1 double adjustable front struts, or I guess, yeah, they're struts. That's what we got up front here. This is that Y pipe. I heat wrapped it originally. I guess it was a bad idea because that stuff just kind of tears off, but that's what it is there. And let's keep going. We've got a UMI Performance cross member back here. Let's go. Let me squeeze through here. It's a 3-bolt on each side. There's only 2 on that side because I forgot to put that one in. 3-bolt on each side instead of factory 2-bolt on each side. And this one changes the mounting position for the torque arm from the transmission right here on this tail shaft to the cross member itself. So we also have a UMI torque arm and I think this is a Lakewood is the brand, bolt-in drive shaft loop. Now this drive shaft loop saved my life once when I was doing a pull on the streets in Mexico, and my 700 R4 decided it didn't want a transmission anymore and it exploded. I'll put some images or a clip of that in this video after I get done with this explanation, but it was quite a violent explosion and it caused some damage to a few seals, like the pinion seal in the rear end now leaks because of that, and the very front seal on the motor also leaks. That crank seal also leaks a little now because of that. But anyway, so when that exploded, this all fell down and was caught by the drive shaft loop, and it also scraped some of the weights off. So now the car shakes a little bit because the drive shaft is not balanced. But anyway, I'm alive, so that's good. So this is where the MagnaFlow exhaust system starts, and in front of that is all kind of hodgepodge stuff. I've got a Granatelli Motorsports exhaust cutout right here, electric cutout. Yeah, I kind of like that just for when I race. It makes you can really hear the cam when you turn that bad boy on. Otherwise, it's got full exhaust all the way back, 3-inch exhaust. It's just got this, well, yeah, it's not stock. It's a 10-bolt, 7.5-inch 10-bolt rear end. It has a strange 373 gear in it. We got our BMR sway bar. It's also got Yukon Posi and Yukon forged 26 spline axles. So it's a little bit stronger than your standard 10-bolt that comes in these things, but I'm still going to swap it out for that 9-inch that you may have seen in my videos. We've got Summit Racing 3-way adjustable rear shocks, as well as our BMR lowering springs in the back. And let's see, we got our adjustable lower control arms, our BMR bolt-in lower control arm relocation brackets that just drop that control arm down significantly, so you get a much better instant center if you have a lowered vehicle, or even if you don't. These things are highly recommended by many people. Though they usually recommend the welding kinds. I got the bolt-in style so that I could remove them from this axle and transfer them to the 9-inch eventually. But I will be welding them onto the 9-inch. Let's keep going. There is my rear diff cover. That's my daughter's handprint up there from when I first put this together. She was, I think, 1.5 or so I put the differential together. And then there's the MagnaFlow muffler on here, and then we got some nice beefy exhaust tips. And that's all the way back. So that's what's done to the car. And this is already a 15-minute video. I guess we'll just go. That's my Firebird. That's what I have done to it. Kind of a little bit of story of it, and I think I'll put the clip of the blown up transmission for sure on my Instagram. I'll put some pictures, but I'll also maybe put that clip in a different video where I work on the car, because this one's going to be long enough all by itself. So yeah, that is the Firebird, and that's it for this video.